Welcome into the Week 9 edition of the Yuma County High School Football Podcast. I'm Sam Kirk, joined alongside Mac Friday. Thank you guys for once again joining and tuning into our podcast. This has now been 8 weeks of football coverage, Mac. It's been quite awesome to, go through this. It's been kind of roller coaster year for a lot of our teams here, but all in all, we have some teams fighting for the postseason. Three of them looks like, is in a pretty decent shot right now. So we'll break those down. We'll show you your power rankings, and then we'll also talk about the games that we have this week. So a little bit less on our schedule than normal with their San Pasqual canceling, but all in all, still football to be played here.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're narrowing things down towards the end of the year, looking at seven teams for the rest of the way, or I mean, even six next week, because Antelope plays their last game of the year this upcoming week. So it's a little bit unfortunate that we're dwindling down because we've had so much fun with this and had such a good time. But the season must come to an end, and the playoffs are looming. So. I mean, just to jump straight into it, Sam, our power rankings really did not change at all this week. I mean, not enough convincing performances or just kind of the way things were with the schedule to switch things up. So just to remind you guys, YC remains on top at number one. Gila Ridge, of course, a close number two. Honestly, pretty interchangeable between those two with how these years have or how this year has gone. Cibola at three, Kofa at four. Really looking forward to that matchup this upcoming week, this Friday. Antelope at five, SP at six, Yuma High at seven, and then Somerton at eight. And Sam, I mean, we'll jump into some other rankings here, but some good ones. If you look at the power rankings with Cibola versus Kofa and Yuma High versus Somerton, a fun week coming up here.
Yeah, no, exactly. And starting to see some of these matchups that we've been, again, talking about for a while in terms of some of these teams having, decent chances to win towards the end of the season. Cibola Kofa should be pretty interesting in my book. And I don't know if that's necessarily a matchup that we thought was going to be as close as what we were maybe expecting on Friday. So yeah, I don't know if we can really ask for much. We've kind of been blessed with, a lot of these teams, especially the Kofa Kings being as effective they've been this year. So, that kind of throws a little fun wrench into things where Gila Ridge is going to have to play whether, Cibola or Kofa. So we'll see what happens there. But,
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, that we'll definitely get to that as the episode progresses. But just kind of to dive straight into things, if we start at the top with YC, Catholic takes down Apollo 44 to 14, really dominate, take care of business. And I mean, Sam, this is something that we saw flashes of against Sunrise, but then, obviously here comes YC against Cactus, takes care of business. And then I feel like Friday was just an opportunity to really flex what they've become back to and gotten back to form.
yeah. And, it's been kind of interesting to see, some of these teams, especially, our power rankings flip flop this week. And that was a little bit, or it didn't really flip flop, but YC coming into things again in the last 2 weeks is really, really just they've been themselves. And I honestly think they've flushed those 5 weeks down the drain at this point in the year. And, now find themselves in a spot where those games, will matter, but they're playing with what's ahead of them. So all in all, I think we still have a lot of, really fun stakes here to talk about and what's on the line here for a lot of these teams.
Yeah, for sure. Just want to highlight some guys from that matchup with YC. Nash Ott returns to form in a big way. We've seen him have a couple good weeks, but not one quite like this season so far. 19 for 29, 339, three touchdowns and an interception. And Sam, we talked about how important these sophomores were for YC. Levi Stallworth has seven rushes for 37 yards and a touchdown. He's a sophomore. Ian Leonard has his first career touchdown in YC colors, two receptions for 92. One of those was a huge reception over the top. And then, a guy like Cameron Thomas at D end, another sophomore, six tackles, two TFLs, and a sack. Sean Carter, although he's held together by duct tape, hopes, and dreams, I mean, he's absolutely killing it. 15 tackles. Nash spreads it around five receivers with at least two receptions, four with three or more. And, We talk about a lot of linemen every once in a while here, Sam, and we have the lineman builds here. We have big guys, but Sahid Verdugo, he's a senior for YC, stands a towering 5'7" and a heavy 153, but he plays as a linebacker on the line of scrimmage, and this guy had 4 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and 2 sacks against Apollo. Pretty incredible and formidable for a guy that you wouldn't necessarily see on that eye test. So, want to give love to those YC guys and gives them a shout out because, when YC is playing good football, it looks good for Yuma County overall. And we've seen that over the past couple of years. So, good on YC for sure.
Yeah, big time win and a game that was kind of be looked like a kind of more of a competitive matchup than it really was. So good to see them get a win and really statement big win for them to really solidify themselves back into in the hunt in that little fringe spot there, Mac. And that leads us into our next game. Obviously, don't want to hone too much on this ball game. Gila Ridge taking down Somerton 79-0. Isaac Solis just going 6 for 7 with 86 yards, was able to throw 4 touchdowns in a short time in the ball game. Prentice Box still ran for 130 as well. So a lot of these guys were able to get in the end zone, get their reps in the first quarter or so for Gila Ridge, and it's just unfortunate circumstances for Somerton where there's not a lot of options they have in terms of trying to do something defensively nor offensively, where they're just outmatched and outmanned and or undersized. So you know, to me, I honestly give credit to Somerton for, finishing this game and competing throughout this game. It's not easy to go in week after week and kind of know what's what, but that's still a team that you watch them play, they're learning the game. They're trying hard and like they play really hard for their coach, they play hard for their school and all I just want to recognize that. We haven't talked a lot about that team in this podcast, but I think it's an important note that we, you know, show our respect to that team and that program that again is just growing in this situation. But for Gila Ridge, another great showing and they continue to roll. I think for them it might have been a little bit beneficial to see some more competition at this point in the year. I'm hoping that during the playoffs, they pick up where they left off when they had some of those tougher matchups just a couple weeks ago. So I'm hoping they don't get stuck in this little zone where, they might be playing some teams that are not going to be just as good as what they might get in the postseason, Mac.
For sure. And to your point about Somerton, obviously, I think they deserve a lot of credit. The 79 nothing, obviously not something you want to see. But I mean, we've gushed about Gila Ridge this year and about how good they are and about what they potentially might do in the postseason here. And Somerton, honestly, was the team that really, really got the short end of the stick when we talked about building this new division and region here in Yuma with the YUHSD schools. Honestly, Somerton should be playing 2A, if not 3A ball, somewhere around there and seeing more success. But just because they needed another team to fill out that division, they got the short end of the stick. And so I admire what Junior Atherton has done over there in Somerton, and I have a lot of respect for those guys, even if it hasn't really gone the way that they've wanted. They've had some competitive games against some low tier 4A teams, which shows, maybe they could potentially belong here in a couple of years and show some solidity or some like a solid spot here. And then, I mean, just back to your Gila Ridge point, I mean, domination. And it is a little unfortunate because there are some guys who are hoping to get some college recruitment here. And, you hope they get better tape. And so, kind of diversifying that, like taking the other side of the coin that we were talking about with, we didn't want Gila Ridge to run up that score and show some mercy. I also see the other side of things with wanting to get your guys some film. So, I don't necessarily think that 79 nothing score is, if you're a Somerton fan, it sucks, but you have to look at both sides of the coin, which I was able to see that perspective. So, it is unfortunate, but Gila Ridge keeps it rolling. We'll talk more about their game coming up this week. This is a playoff opportunity for them this week against Sierra Linda, who's a 21 seed. If they're the 10, we could see something like this. But staying on a kind of non-competitive contest point, we look at Cibola 50, Yuma High nothing. Armando Mosqueda's program at Yuma High is really just sliding and having a really bad year when it comes to health and lack of success, their guys just can't stay on the field. And so we've seen Cebola kind of dominate Summerton, and a lot of those guys got hurt. And I would assume that it was probably a similar effect or result with the Crims over at Field at Curly Colt Memorial Stadium. I mean, some great performances from the Raiders. Javi Rodriguez, 8 for 9 for 160 and a TD. Daniel Sains, 12 carries for 205, 3 TDs. Marquez Montague. We've talked about those guys. And honestly, you could even say that this like rushing attack for Cebola is a four-headed monster with Damian and then also Darian Alvarez. So there's four guys that can rush the ball for the Raiders. And I think that's something that is interesting to look at when we go into this Kofa matchup later this week. And hey, 61 total tackles as a team in one game, that's pretty insane.
Yeah, I mean that's a lot of tackles there. Shout out to Cibola. I mean, pitching a shutout's never the easiest thing to do in high school football, and they did just that. And moving along to their opponent this week, Kofa, who had a rough loss against a Desert Sunrise team who we probably saw this coming. Um, it was a tough loss for Kofa. The offense at least had enough to score one touchdown. That's kind of the positive here, all in all. But defense did its job, kind of held in there for a while. But this is kind of what we expected. And this game this week is, I'm sure, what the Kings maybe had their eyes set on a little bit in terms of that just mattering a little bit more. But I don't know how much we can really take away from this matchup and tell from Kofa being that, this is what we kind of saw coming in this game.
Well, I mean, I like to kind of think about this two-game losing streak for the Kings as a back to earth kind of like moment. Because that Lake Havasu loss as well, they scored two touchdowns and were feeling on top of the world with that against a good team. But then, the loss to Gila Ridge and the loss to Desert Sunrise, they both only had one touchdown. And the Kova offense was not getting the job done in this game. I was there along with Morgan, and they only scored that one touchdown through special teams on a kickoff return that they found the way through. And so this was absolute. They did score a touchdown straight up on Gila Ridge on offense, but that was absolutely not the case on what was going to work against this Desert Sunrise team. Penalties on every drive. It was ineffective. So if you're Austin Browning and then, assistant coach Ian Brown, who's helping out with the offense and is a Cibola grad and wants to win this game coming up this week, you really got to, get back to doing the things that have made you successful over the past couple of weeks. And all credit to the Kofa defense. Did their job for as long as they could. Recovered a fumble, recorded a pick, gave the offense some chances that they just couldn't capitalize on.
I think you hit all the points there on what the Kings did the last week. Again, it's going to be a big point to see if they can block Cibola up front and be able to give their passing game a real shot on Friday. So move into our next game. Antelope was in this game against Tonopah for maybe 3/4, Mac. This was a very competitive game, and a lot of really good performances on the Antelope side of the ball. I mean, Train threw for 367 yards, two touchdowns. Antelope was up 26-21 again and just kind of collapsed in the late stages. This ball game, Ozzie Martin went off again, but unfortunately, that looks like their playoff hopes are, probably over now, unfortunately. And that was a chance for them, Mac. That was a true test that, I don't think we expected them to be fighting with that late into that game.
No, definitely not.
It's a shame to see such a hard collapse too, as well, with 8 minutes to go to give up 20 points unanswered is, pretty tough way to end things. And unfortunately, I don't know if there's, a lot of ways where Antelope could find themselves back in this thing.
Yeah. Um, like you said, it's pretty unfortunate. And I want to give a shout out to Train, even though he threw 5 picks. Two of those were kind of desperation heaves at the end of the game. Um, this week was really the week of the quarterbacks. I mean, I think we have three 300-yard passers. We'll see when we get down the list with Alfred Cornejo for San Pasqual. And, I think it was a universal Tonopah pick across the board with our picks. And so for Antelope to be teasing with being a 5-pick buster, which I think we've only had one of this season with YC and Cactus, that's a huge accomplishment. And I want to give a lot of credit to Alfonso Brown, who hasn't had the most success in his Yuma football run. I mean, he was a part of that Kofa losing streak when he was the head coach over there, and then helped out at Gila Ridge a little bit and didn't see a ton of success like he's seen or like Gila Ridge is seeing now. So I think with how tough their schedule was and how things went against this Tonopah team, and you had some good players, you can really hang your hat on a good season here and a season in which you can be pleased with. It's not over yet. This Trivium game should actually be pretty interesting, and we've got some good stuff to compare with. They have a lot of common opponents, so looking forward to that. And then, I mean, Sam, we moved down the line to our final team with San Pasqual, who does have their, not going to play another game. They're done. Lost to Highland Prep West 61 to 41. Just a little bit outmatched, I think. Alfred 18 for 37 for 328, three tuds and five picks. But I mean, we saw Alex Acuna go 21 for 154 and two TDs. And then, of course, it sucks to say it, but the great Isaiah Martinez, his career's over. And he had a great game going out, eight catches for 146 and a touchdown. It's been a pleasure to watch him play. And, want to give all the flowers in the world to Miguel Rivas and the San Pasqual football program for the year that they've had, because this is not, he has totally turned this team around, and it has really been like an all-time turnaround for the program this year.
Yeah, and in a ton of games, really wasn't many that they were completely just doors blown out in. I think that just speaks volume to, the kids over there and how hard they work to get ready for this season. And things are looking up. I know Martinez is leaving, and like you said, shout out to him, one heck of a career as a Warrior. But I think they return a lot of their guys, Mac, next year. So I think that
Yeah.
could be potentially a pretty effective thing in terms of, them could still continuing to get better, continuing to make that telegraph pass game closer, continuing to just improve within their region play. And that's what they did this year. And again, gotta tip your cap. I'm glad you gave credit to him too as well.
For sure. And they lose everybody except for pretty much Isaiah. So hate to kind of single him out like that as the only guy leaving, but that is also a great, indicator of what they could achieve next year. So all the flowers in the world to Miguel and San Pasqual. Great work this year, guys. It's been a pleasure. So I mean, Sam, that wraps up kind of our recaps.
Yeah.
We got some fun stuff in the games this week. I would circle this Cibola Kofa game as the most fun game this week in terms of our local matchups. This is the battle for second place in the 4A Desert Southwest. I mean, let's move to picks, Sam. I mean, this is a good one. I think Cibola probably has the higher powered offense. But if Kofa can dial up some trickery, I think that this could be a lot closer game than a lot of people are expecting. I would say Cibola probably still perseveres, wins by two or three scores. I'm gonna go something like a 35 to 14.
Yeah, I like the way the Raiders are trending right now, and I think, Coach Gillespie has done a great job with that team, and they're playing really hot, good football, and I think they know how important this game is just to kind of cement that status and be like, hey, that we're still right up there, and we're not letting Kofa come in this year and change that narrative right now. So I'm having Cibola too, a little closer though, Mac. I would say I could see the Kings keeping this one possession game here, something along the lines of maybe like a 21-15, where Kofa just can't get over the hump at the end of the ball game. Cibola's defense is able to kind of do what they can do, as you get said, a lot of pass rushing ability, and they have a lot of guys that can play.
And I think that despite my pick, I think that is actually an incredibly realistic scenario because we've seen games this year where the Raiders come out incredibly flat and they have poor first quarters, poor first halves. That game against Estrella Foothills, when I talked to Coach Gillespie after, he said that even though they were losing 7-3 at halftime, that lead felt insurmountable. So if Kofa can, get their game plan on top and really rebound from this loss last week, I could really see a closer contest. But, I'm still going to stick with my guns with that pick. But I really do think that they could go either way. I mean, just moving down the line, this is kind of the closest we'll get to a playoff game this week, I would say. Antelope with the crossover game, the 2A region crossover game. Number 26 Antelope at number 11 Trivium Prep. And Sam, I did do a little bit of analysis with this. There were four common opponents: Chandler Prep, Veritas Prep, Mountainside, and Cortez. And the only one that both Antelope and Trivium beat was Mountainside. And it was 25-20 Antelope. And then Trivium beat Mountainside 20-14. So that could be an interesting barometer, but they both lost to Veritas, and then they split those results. Trivium beat Cortez and Chandler Prep, and Antelope lost. That being said, I think last week was pretty crushing for the Rams. And as possible as a rebound is, I think Trivium wins this one and ends the season of the Rams. Let's go with like a 28-20.
Yeah, it's hard to it's hard for me again to pick. I just think it's a tough spot again for Antelope. Last week was a lot for them, but all in all, I think what they showed in that fight in that game, I don't know, for some reason I think they're gonna come out with a little bit more energy in that ball game, I guess. But again, I can't see them winning. I think this will be a little closer, Mac. Maybe they'll keep this one again. You had one score too. I think 6 points is probably fair. Like you had it something along the lines of 27-20, something right there where some offenses had, but at the end of the day, I don't know if they'll be consistent enough, not turn it over enough to outscore their opponent here.
For sure. Really fun one we have next on the list, and two teams that are just desperate for a win. A winless Somerton team versus a winless Yuma High team. These two teams are in the bottom three of the 4A conference. Obviously, the year has not gone the way that they've wanted for either group. And depending on Yuma High's health, this could be a pretty interesting game either way. I think Somerton does have a little bit of a leg up because they are at home, and I'm sure the energy will be high. I'm sure a lot of people will want to see this win, especially the Toros home crowd. I just think the Crims have too much talent and too much of a pedigree from, the past couple seasons at least, or have like kind of the Yuma history behind them. I'm going to say the Crims are going to not have a losing season this year, and Somerton is going to have a winless season. Let's go with a sloppy something like 13-6. Sloppy game in Somerton, but a win for the Crims nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like in every podcast, Mac, we've kind of tried to find one game where we can maybe split some of the hairs here, and I think I'm gonna take the Toros to win their first game here. I generally
I love
think
it.
I think the energy with the Crims right now is tough. I don't know if they're really gonna be getting up for this game, and I know Somerton's gonna be getting up for this game. They're gonna be angry about last week, and they want to play for their name here in this town, and I believe they know this is probably their best chance all season. I think they're going to be willing to get up for this matchup. And again, it's going to come down to 1-2 scores. If there's some trickery, if there's some fumbles, who turns the ball over the most, a lot of these things are going to dictate who comes out this game. Somerton scores twice somehow. I'm going to have 13-6 the other way instead. So
I love it. I love it.
here, so just splitting some hairs, but I think again it's potentially one of our more fun games of the week, believe it or not. It's nice to see that those programs are going to have a true shot to win here this week.
Hey, and I'm glad you split that with me so we don't have another graphic that looks like last week. Shout out to Chaz Messman for giving us a hard time. I mean, everybody picked the same exact winners last week, and I'm pretty sure everybody went 6 for 6. So
So can't knock it too much.
yeah, gotta split it a little bit. So I'm glad you picked that. One that I think everybody is going to be on the same board or the same page for this one, Sam, is Yuma Catholic at Willow Canyon. Willow is 37 and 4A. Yuma Catholic just on the outside looking in at 25. They're probably going to win out on this season and get a playoff spot unless absolute havoc breaks loose. Nash is playing well. The sophomores have evolved into great playmakers. You've got guys all around the lineup and guys like Brody Amon and Sean Carter and Cesar Fernandez on the D line, David Haynes and J.R. Polk all over the place on both sides of the field. I really like the Shamrocks in this one, and I think they're going to keep moving in the right direction. I'm going to say something like, let's go 49-7.
Yeah, wow, it's a statement win for you. YC scoring 50 points, holding their opponent to 7. I'm right there with you though. I think they're playing as great a football as anyone in town right now, and again, they don't have much to lose. No one expected them to be in this spot at this point in the season, and I think they're just playing with all their marbles. I generally think they're going out there and just trying to win football games. They're not thinking about what's happened in the past. And I think that's why the last couple of weeks here have been what it's been, where they've gotten back to their standard, they've gotten back to their identity. And I just feel like Vernon has done a tremendous job of coming back from that. Like there's a lot of coaches out there that I believe like that would have crumbled under that pressure, that would have not been able to come back and get up after losing that many games, after starting the way you did, after what happened last year. Like there's a lot of people that just would lay down and die, especially with the schedule that they were tasked with. And that didn't happen. They came back, they fought back, they won games they weren't expected to win. And now they're finding themselves on the fringe of a potential playoff berth. And Mac, once you get in, who cares what happened, right? That's kind of the bottom line of NFL or any type of football playoffs. Like you get in and you see what happens. And a lot of these teams, especially at that level, are going to be that good where that 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 skill level really isn't that great. So, I'm excited for YC and I'm really proud of those kids for showing tremendous fight all year long. And I got them with a blowout win too, something along the lines. It's maybe like a 31-12 game. I think their defense sets the tone as well, not as high scoring as you think, but a win's a win here. And I think they're going to do it in dominating fashion.
The reason I go with 49-7, Sam, is a conversation I had with Coach Smith last Friday night. I asked him, I mean, what has changed for you in your play calling philosophy? What has made you so aggressive? And I mean, where have you really shifted? Because I mean, he's taking shots downfield. There was a moment where, and I'm not trying to give myself credit for this, it was just kind of what happened. I went over and I said to one of the people along the YC sideline, I bet you they score here in 3 plays or less with a shot play. And two downfield passes to Brody Amon and a quick run up the middle in the red zone for a touchdown. I mean, that's just their philosophy right now. And Coach Smith is incredibly confident with his guys and with the position that he's become and or the position he's come into as this play caller and as this general for the team as the head coach. He's done a great job. Like you said, want to give him all the credit in the world. And then, I mean, Sam's somebody who also deserves all the credit in the world as we continue down the line with our final game this week. Jessica Slaughter, Gila Ridge. We know we have a lot of supporters of this podcast who watch from the Gila Ridge contingency. And I mean, hey, this is one to look forward to. You've kind of had to slog through the bottom half of this division, of this region. And now you get an opportunity to play a team who this could potentially look like your first round playoff game. Sierra Linda is a 21 seed. You are a 10 seed. This is a game that could look like your first round playoff game back at Veterans in what, 2 weeks from 2 days from today, 2 weeks and 2 days from today, Sam. Recording this on Wednesday. So, this is one that you can look forward to. And I think this is one where your team can really stretch their legs and show what they are more capable of instead of having to pull guys in, the second quarter at half or third quarter, whatever. You can leave your starters in and really get some tape, really see what you're made of and kick some butt. I'm gonna go Gila Ridge something like let's go 42-12.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there, and huge tip of the cap. I honestly, I feel like in that neck of the woods, they're looking at me as the non-Gila Ridge believer of all the, pickers and whatnot. I just want to address those people. That's not the case here, and you know, I can't say that anymore. And what they've done all season long and continue to, again, prove us wrong. They've came into this season with a rocky start in that week 1, week 0 game, whatever you want to call it. But that again has been the greatest kick in the butt that they needed to spark this run, and it's been truly magical to watch. And again, shout out to this team. Shout out to Isaac Solis for turning into a man during the season. You know what I mean? That was not the same kid I interviewed in August that is out there right now. He looks different, he throws different, and he walks different. There's just that type of attitude you need under center, Mac, and they got it. And they got it all across the field. They're loaded on defense, and honestly, on offense, their weapons are, as good as it gets. You got 4 or 5 guys that can, do whatever they need with the rock. So I'm really excited to see what they can do. Again, I think this is important for them to see a good matchup where the last 2 weeks or so they haven't really been tested. They kind of need something like this. Can't hurt to see again another quality opponent here before the playoffs.
And I wouldn't even say that this is that much of a test because of what they've really done this year. And it's pretty incredible. And, I want to give also Gila Ridge some credit because the AIA rankings are not representative of what you've done this season. Having you at 10 because of the way the PowerPoints work is honestly a travesty because there are, non-AIA media ranking officials who have Gila Ridge in the top five, potentially around the top three. And I think that's really where they deserve to be. Not that the coaches really care much about that. They don't really want that attention anyways, but 10 and not getting a first round bye is something that, I don't think Gila Ridge deserves. They deserve more than that. But hey, sometimes you want to stay hot in that first week of the playoffs instead of having a week off. That's one way or the other. Maybe you want your guys to heal up, but hey, you can't beggars can't be choosers. Who knows what they're going to go with and what's going to happen? I'm sure the cards will fall how they fall. But that pretty much wraps up our picks, Sam, in another fun week. I can't believe we're only going to be doing this for a couple more weeks. It's been so fun just doing this and building an audience, and we love doing this for you guys. And hopefully, a team makes a deep run so we can keep doing this across the next couple weeks. So
Yeah,
shout
no,
out,
exactly.
out
We
to all the
appreciate
teams
it.
and the parents and the coaches for watching us, and thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate all the support, really, and we're hoping to continue this for as long as we can this season. And again, thank you to all those teams, all the players, and all of our community for giving us the support. Without that, this probably wouldn't have been a week 9, week 10 thing, Mac, So I'm thankful for the audience that we have. And hey, it's not over till it's over yet. We still got some football to be played, and again, we'll have more Yuma County High School football podcasts for you guys coming up. Look in that middle week part of next week. Should be posted again by Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday nights, like when we typically like to get those out there for you guys. So expect that again next week. But for now, that's all we have here for Sam Kirk and Mac Friday here for week 9 of the Yuma County High School football podcast. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We'll see you next week.